Just believe me, this stay with me.
In our last review, we brought you guys a 2012 Dodge Challenger SXT. This time, we're back and we're bringing you a 2016 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. So not only are we gonna give you guys a review of this awesome car, but also we're gonna see how much Dodge has progressed over the years.
So under the hood, we have a 6.4 liter V8 engine made by SRT. Now the car itself is an RT Scat Pack, but the engine is powered by SRT.
The car itself weighs a little bit over 4,000 pounds. So just like Mitchell's car, this is a very heavy car. The difference is, because this is a gigantic V8, the power may make up for the weight, unlike in Mitchell's car. So, I'm sorry. So, let's get to driving this car and we'll see how the weight of the car handles around corners, but also at the same time, how the power makes up for the weight. So setting off in the Dodge Challenger Scat Pack, the first thing that I notice about this car is how loud it is. Oh my God, but like, in no way is that bad. This car is loud, but it sounds so angry and mean, and I can't stop smiling. Oh
it does that, you know.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's not the most best handling car. It's not the most, you know, lightest car, but it just makes you happy. It's rolling attitude.
I can like feel the power without even like having to move. Like I know the engine is so big and so mean. How do you not get a ticket every 5 seconds? So just starting to drive this car, the steering, I do kind of feel a little bit of the weight of this car, but this car, like in Mitchell's Challenger, is not supposed to be like a Canyon car. This car is built for the straight lines, and my God, does it do that well. Like, it's so loud and so responsive in every gear. Like earlier, because this car is a 6-speed manual, and I'll get to that eventually, but earlier I was driving it and I released the clutch a little bit too quickly and I was about to stall, but the engine, because it has so much torque, caught the, like I've never seen anything that powerful that it can just like catch a gear like that. So the clutch is pretty heavy, but it also feels responsive. Like compared to the 370Z that I drove, this clutch is much nicer, but compared to the S2000, this really doesn't hold a flame, because the shifter is just not as responsive and not as precise, but the S2000 is like known for having an insanely good shifter. In no way am I dissing this car for its shifter. So the owner of the car was just telling me that this car has all the same like gauges and stuff that the Hellcat is known for, and it just adds kind of this cool feel to the car, because you know how much power this has and how purpose-built it is for being able to go so quickly. We're in third gear now, we'll just do a little bit of a pull. Holy shit. It picks up so quickly. I started there at about 3,000 RPM and it just shot up. It kicked me back really hard. It got really loud and growly. This is everything that you'd want from a car that just... If that's what you're looking for, this car is perfect. But how about second? Okay, I actually felt the tail squirm a little bit right there when I was doing a second gear pull. The road is a little bit wet, but nonetheless, I don't discredit the car at all. This thing is powerful. And I keep saying that, but I can't stress it enough. Like even when we drove the Hellcat, like that had 707 horsepower and this has 485, but honestly, this car feels so responsive and so powerful even in comparison to that. The exhaust is very loud, but when you put it into a higher gear, like right now I'm in 6th gear, this is a 6-speed manual, the engine and the exhaust does not drone. Like I can have a casual conversation, I'm not yelling over the sound of the engine, and in no way is it annoying. But when you bring it into a higher RPM, it gives you the exact sound that you want it to. This is not the stock exhaust though. Do you know what brand makes this exhaust?
It's called SpinTech, which is a really smaller kind of, not Corsa, not Borla, not Flowmaster. It's kind of one of those smaller brands that I wasn't too keen on when I first heard of it. Then I heard it on the car. I'm like, you know what? I'll keep it on the car. I can always change it out later.
Yeah.
And so far I'm happy with it. You're right. It doesn't drone on the highway, and you could have a casual conversation and turn some music on.
And this exhaust also has the quad tip that you'll see. The car normally has like the rectangles, very similar to Mitchell's car, but this quad exhaust taking up that space that the rectangles were originally, it looks really good. And I think in comparison to the normal stock Challenger, I think it gives it a very nice taste. This car, going around slight corners, it does not feel as heavy as Mitchell's car. I don't know if the suspension setup is tighter or what, but it does not feel as heavy as Mitchell's SXT Challenger that we drove last time. And at the same time, it feels extremely more powerful. So all around, I like this driving experience much more than the SXT that we drove. So just like the Hellcat, this car also does have multiple modes that you can set for like the suspension and the throttle response. So right now I'm in the normal mode, but then we can change it to track mode or something like that if we want to, that'll increase the throttle response. And also, does it tighten the suspension?
No, just steering.
So what modifications do you plan on doing to this car?
That's a great question. I think the biggest thing that will make the biggest impact on this car are definitely wider, grippier tires. I would like to do coilovers, reduce the boatiness, front and rear sway bars, and front and rear strut towers. That should help a lot in the boatiness aspect. And then, in all honesty, also get some nice ride. Got a little drop in ride height, which is cool.
Yeah. So a lot of the mods that you want to do really have to do with the weight of the car and transferring and controlling the weight of the car.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm not going to go do cams and heads and stuff like that, because I was saying earlier off camera, I like the warranty. I like having a warranted vehicle. I like being able to drop it off at the dealer and tell them, hey, this part's needs to be fixed. I like that, And then maybe, depending upon if I'm happy with the way things are going, get the Hellcat brakes.
Yeah.
The 6-piston brakes, The 4-piston stopped the car good, I'm sure, as you could tell.
Yeah.
But the 6-pistons just really do a nice job of, just scrubbing the speed off.
Speaking of the brakes, we should talk about those because I have not. They have extremely good bite. I mean, like, I'm sure the Hellcat's brakes are nice and they would give you more feel, but I really would have no problem keeping these brakes if this was my car. They give you very good response. They stop the car very well, and I mean, with a car that weighs this much, you really do need brakes that can stop you this well. So, like he said, these are Brembo 4-piston all around, and they're very good. They're very responsive. They have no real like lag when you press them. Like it's consistently responsive throughout the entire push of the brake. So let's talk about the interior of this car. Now, we were talking about how in Mitchell's SXT Challenger that it was so roomy and huge, and it is no different in this car. The interior of this car, you have so much space to move around, and like it would be so easy to go on like a long road trip in this car, despite the fact that it's a coupe. Like, I don't at all feel claustrophobic. Honestly, like, to move my hand all the way to the window, like, you can't stick your arm out and over the window like this from the outside, like you see like cliche people in movies do.
You can't be cool.
Yeah, exactly. You can't be cool because the window is so far away.
The belt line's so high.
Yeah. No, so just like in Mitchell's car, the interior of this car is amazing as far as room and space. But unlike Mitchell's car, the design of this car is really nice. They've improved it like light years. So you have this gigantic touchscreen display, which, like I was saying earlier, it has all of the Hellcat gauges, which just gives you this really cool feel, but also it gives you navigation. It even has Yelp. Besides the touchscreen and like the modern twist on that part of the car, there's also all of like the temperature and like your buttons and stuff are kind of like facing towards you. They're like turned to face towards you, and it makes you feel like, as the driver, it makes you feel like the car is built for you, the driver, not like for everybody in the car. Like, you are the driver of the car. It gives you like that nice feel. It reminds me of, as much as this is JDM and I really shouldn't be comparing these two, the Supra. The Supra has like this kind of like fighter jet where like they turn everything towards you. and that was kind of like one of the best parts of the Supra's interior, and I also think it's a great part of this car because it makes you feel important. In addition to that, the gauges in this car are improved from Mitchell's car a ton. They gave up that kind of like weird white coloring, and instead they gave you these black and red with a little bit of white, like purpose-built, like functional but also kind of retro looking gauges. And in the middle between those two is this electronic display which tells you your speed and all of that stuff. So now you may be thinking, okay, let's get Mitchell's impressions, because Mitchell owns a Challenger and it would be really interesting to see what he thinks. Why aren't you driving today, Mitchell?
I don't know manual good.
Mitchell can't drive manual.
I can drive manual, but not well enough where I feel comfortable driving such a powerful car.
So now we're gonna go to the conclusion, talk to you guys about this car, and give it some ratings. So now it's time to conclude our review of the 2016 Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. But before we get there, you may have been asking yourself through this review, why is Oren wearing an S13 Japanese shirt? And the reason for that is because Mitchell loves American cars. So I'm trying my best to give the most unbiased opinion of this car that I can, because we know that Mitchell's opinion will be swayed. But first, because Mitchell didn't get to drive the car, I think we should hand it over to him to talk about the interior of the car, since that's what he spent the most time with.
Now, our closest comparison to this car would be my SXT, and compared to that, the interior on this car is 100% improved. The dashboard is rather similar with the squishy feel, but the gauges, the touchscreen, even that weird trim around everything is 100% improved. It is all amazing. One of the things I really despised about the interior of my car is that gauge cluster and how it's just white and kind of bland. This, it has the depth, it has 3D, and it looks just so mean and so amazing with the digital display in the middle, and then with the touchscreen infotainment system that you can see horsepower readouts, everything you want to know about the car, 0 to 60 times, it's all there. The interior, the seats with the suede, it's just so comfortable. You got the lumbar support, and the back seats are amazing as well. I had to sit in there while we were driving, and there's no holds on the back seats either. You have all the room you could ever need. Like everything, you don't feel cramped back there like in Oren's car. Just superb.
Just take shots, why don't you? So next we're gonna talk about the driving experience, which was amazing. So first off, this car was a 6-speed manual, and though the transmission was not as locking and as like tight as maybe the S2000 or the FRS, this was still very good when compared to a lot of American cars which are not known for having amazing stick shifts. The clutch was very heavy, but at the same time, I think it really fit the feel of this car, which is this gigantic 6.4 liter monster. Now, talking about the gigantic factor of this car, that would be the only drawback for this car, because it's really heavy. Like I said, it was a little tad over 4,000 pounds, which is a lot of weight. But the car handled it pretty well. I'm not saying that this is like a track monster and it can totally take corners, but it did not feel as heavy as the car actually is. And the power, the 485 horsepower and 475 foot-pounds of torque, totally made up for the weight of this car. So the car was fast, the car handled pretty well, the 6-speed manual added a lot to the experience. Overall, the driving experience of this car was superb. And that's my unbiased JDM fan opinion of this car. So now it's time to get to the numbers. So we're gonna start this review off with quality. Now, if you haven't watched any of our reviews, you would not know, because you haven't watched them, that we rate cars out of 5 in a 5-tier system. So like I said, we're gonna start with quality. Quality means the interior quality, the build quality, just overall the quality of this car. And so for that, we gave it a
5.
Because the interior of this car has improved dramatically, but not even compared to the 2012, it's still very nice. And also, the look of this car is great. Everything feels so nice and solid. Easy 5. Next, we're gonna talk about bang for your buck, which is as simple as it sounds, how much performance, how much fun you're getting for your money. So for that, we give it a
4.5.
Because this car is 44 grand, and that may sound like a lot of money, but for the amount of car that you're getting, totally worth it. Next, we're gonna talk about fun. And for fun, we give this car a?
I don't remember.
For fun, we give this car a 5 because it's so fast, and like the throttle, like when you tap on it, it just shoots you back. And then also it sounds so mean, and it's just so much fun. Now you may be thinking, what about the weight? Well, in the overall fun factor of this car, the weight didn't really stop it from being fun. Like, you can still have so much fun despite the weight. But when it comes to performance, we give this car a 4.5. Mitchell, head in the game. And the reason for that is because the weight is a little bit of a drawback when it comes to stuff like the track. But overall, this car was a lot of fun. So for the overall rating of this car, we're gonna wait for this car to... So for the overall rating of this car, we give it a
4.5.
Because overall, this was an amazing car. And other than the weight, which was a little bit of a drawback, it really has no downsides. And that's, again, my unbiased JDM fan opinion. This car was amazing. And if you're considering getting one, I would really strongly recommend it.
Personally, I think if you're looking at the Challengers or even any Dodge, go with the 2015 and up. The quality of them has improved dramatically over the earlier years, and if you just spend that little extra money, you're definitely getting what you pay for.
And also, if I could give my opinion, as now having driven the the 6-cylinder and the 8-cylinder, I would really recommend saving up, spending the extra money to get the 8-cylinder because it is that much more fun. While his car was fun for cruising and it was just nice and chill and laid back, this Demon, that's funny,
nope,
Demon.
not the Demon.
Not the Demon, but a Demon sitting behind me was a ton of fun, and I attribute 90% of that to the massive V8 under the hood. Thank you so much for watching. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys subscribe, follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, and him, because he also is here. See you guys next time.